Now, at the time, I knew I was being emotionally abused, but I would Google what is emotional abuse. And the examples that were given were so overt that I was like, okay, I guess maybe it's not. Like, he would never tell me that I'm nothing without him. He would never tell me that I was worthless. He would never, he was not overt like that. He was too smart, right? It was the covert messaging, it was the decades long systematic erosion of my sense of self that you could not be described in, a bullet point necessarily on a website.
The checklist didn't help because it was never going to. Covert abusers don't follow a script, they follow you. They study you, they learn about you, and they use everything they know about you to make sure you stay confused, stay focused on them, and never realize the truth that you were never the problem. That's what we're unpacking today with Kate Anthony, divorce coach, host of the Divorce Survival Guide podcast, and author of The D Word, making the ultimate decision about your marriage. This is a conversation you do not want to miss. So let's get started with the Restoring Resilience podcast. Kate, thank you so much for joining me on the Restoring Resilience podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Chelsey. It is such a great opportunity to have this conversation with each other in the opposite seats now.
I know. It's what we were just talking about. And I've just been on your podcast, which was just released. And now you're going to be on mine. So we will cross promote. And I know it's going to be so helpful. This conversation I'm excited about because we're in pretty similar areas. You specialize, of course, in high conflict divorce, helping people navigate that whole process. And I'm sure you run into high conflict, toxic, antagonistic, narcissistic people, which
fortunately not in my office, but yes, almost all of my clients are divorcing such people.
I work with the narcissistic abuse survivors, so we're in very similar spaces, trying to help them navigate dealing with antagonistic people. And what I really appreciate about your story as well is that you don't just do this theoretically. Like, you've been through your own divorce and you've been through, navigating your own toxic situation. So just tell us a little bit about who you are, how you got into this work.
Oh, yeah. So, as you said, my name is Kate Anthony, and I have been divorced for probably over 17 years now. And back in the mid 2000s, we were not having these conversations. We didn't have podcasts available at the time. We didn't have Instagram, I don't think was even born yet. We certainly were only using social media to post pictures of our kids and cats, whatever. Right, exactly. And it was a very different landscape. And I was in a marriage in which I now know I was being very emotionally, psychologically abused, and gaslit beyond, right? But I didn't have any words to explain it. I didn't understand what was happening. And so I was stuck in it for so much longer than I should have because I didn't have words for it. We were in couples therapy for years and nobody named this, right? We now know, and we now talk more openly about the fact that couples therapy is contraindicated in cases of abuse. And our therapist did diagnose him as a narcissist. Oh. He said, "You are a narcissist, and, Kate, you're codependent," which I was like, yeah, tell me something else I don't know. But when my ex, he was like, okay. And he said, go and look it up and find information on these things for yourselves, right? And so my ex went and he Googled narcissism, and the only thing that he could find was information on narcissistic personality disorder. And he was like, I don't have that. And our therapist agreed. I agree. He absolutely does not have narcissistic personality disorder. He is pretty far out on the spectrum of narcissism, but it's not NPD. So that was that. Then it was never discussed again. Right. And so there was I had no comprehension of what was happening to me. And the moment, and also our couples therapists were very hell-bent on the idea that we had to stay together for our son, and that the worst thing you could do to a child was put them through a divorce. At this point, I am so still gobsmacked by the idea that that was actually the professional advice that was out there in the mid 2000s, but there it was. And I had this moment when it hit me really hard. It literally in a moment, like I said, call it like my frying pan. I was like hit upside the head with a frying pan, where I went, I have to leave from my son. That my son is he's going to learn to be abusive to women. He's going to choose codependent women to prey upon if I don't get out of this. And that's the only thing I knew. And I knew it with every core of my being, despite the information I had been given at the time. I just knew it. And, I think as mothers, sometimes we know things more intensely for our children than we ever know them for ourselves, right?
Intuitively. That's what I was
There's
thinking.
an,
Like your gut
yeah,
was telling
my
you.
gut was like, oh no. And we are willing to make changes for our children that we don't necessarily feel that we can make for ourselves too, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like, oh, it's for my kid. Oh yeah, right? Then it's not a question anymore. Um, so that was the moment I was like, oh, that's it. I have to go. And then over the years, I started really understanding more and more about what was happening to me. Now, at the time, I knew I was being emotionally abused, but I would Google what is emotional abuse. And the examples that were given were so overt that I was like, okay, I guess maybe it's not. Like, he would never tell me that I'm nothing without him. He would never tell me that I was worthless. He would never, he was not overt like that. He was too smart, right? It was the covert messaging. It was the decades long systematic erosion of my sense of self that you could not be described in, a bullet point necessarily on a website. I think we can do that better now. But, even the, national hotline was just not, the examples were all so overt that I decided that that wasn't what was happening to me, right? And it wasn't until I got out that I really started putting the pieces together a little bit more. And I had a little distance, and I was like, I don't actually care what they call it. I know what this is. And that's how I kind of got into this, was wanting to help other people really identify and understand what was happening to them so that they didn't have to go through an extra 5 or 10 years of questioning themselves.
Yeah. And I love that. I mean, you get to the point where you are ready to help others get out of where you were. It's like
Absolutely.
the same thing for me. Like my story is very much I now want to
Hmm.
help people where I was so they do
That's
not
right.
have to go through those things. So I really appreciate that you are now, helping others and giving back where you did not
Hmm.
have that. And I want to keep going with what you're talking about, how we can look for signs of emotional abuse and coercive control. But
Yep.
before we do that, I want to go back briefly because
Hmm.
saying that the couples therapy is contraindicated if they are a narcissist, if there's abuse involved. And so for anybody who is like, well, what is contraindicated? Basically, it means it is unsafe. Like
Hmm.
it's not safe. It's not going to work. It's not recommended to go to couples therapy because couples therapy is based on the assumption that you're equally responsible.
And that there's an equal power, there's no
Yes.
power dynamic, right? In abuse, there is always a power differential. And that couples therapy, right, has
Yep.
to has to have an even playing field. There is no power play and power dynamic
Right.
for it to work. And but the irony, of course, is that your basic therapy training does not include in-depth training on recognizing signs of domestic abuse,
It does
right?
not. It does
So
not. I think I had
it
one
does not,
course on it,
right? Yeah, usually it's
maybe.
like maybe one course, right? Like it's like a module of a course or something, right?
Yeah.
And
And
so,
we're definitely not talking about the subtle things, the gaslighting, coercive control. I didn't hear that word. I've been doing this 11 years now. I didn't hear that word for many years after my training. So I don't know if it's a part of it now. I don't really think so. I don't think it's mainstream anyways. If you get that, it is from specialized training you get afterwards.
That you seek out, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
your average therapist is not trained in
No.
one of the very key things that, by the way, probably is present in a majority of the cases that they see. Um,
For couples work,
for
absolutely.
couples work, right? And they
Yeah.
don't get training in how to identify something that would mean that they should not actually be doing the work with them.
Yeah.
So it's really dangerous. And this keeps victims being victimized.
And I think that's really shocking for people. Like when you say couples therapists don't know about abuse dynamics, like what do you mean? It's like going to the doctor and saying they don't know how to treat a sinus infection. It just sounds crazy.
It
Yeah.
sounds insane, because it is, by the way.
It is that we don't understand that. And that's why things like your podcast, my podcast, Google, like YouTube, this is why it's so huge and why people have gravitated toward it. I think I heard a statistic like people trust the podcast host's advice almost like equal level to their friends, like
Hmm.
to people that you have a relationship with, because
Yeah.
you're listening to other podcasts and they may know more about your situation. Sorry, guys, for anybody who's listening, my cat is getting in the way. Um,
I wish my cats were up on my face. They're
well, mine love to make a show, as anybody knows who watches this. Um, so yeah, like you
Oh,
gravitate
there's
toward,
another one.
yes, I got two.
I have three. I
Oh,
have three,
well.
but they're not in here. Oh well.
They would
Anyway.
have a blast.
Mm,
So I want to go back to like,
yeah.
let's break down this course of control, the signs, because this is what's keeping people stuck. And so,
Yeah.
what do you look for on a
Yes.
day-to-day basis to be like, this is
Yeah.
abuse?
Well, here's the thing. Here's what's interesting. And I tell me what you think about this. In my mind, what we do as victims when we're gaslit, we're so confused, we don't know what's going on. We keep examining them to see if their behavior aligns, like there's a checklist, we're like, overlaying it, does it match up,
Yes.
like a DNA,
Yeah,
profile, like
right.
do all the pieces align? And I think that's the wrong focus. I think the focus has to be how do you feel in this relationship? Do you feel confused? Do you feel loved and supported? Do you feel criticized? Do you feel like you can't do anything right? Do you feel like there's like this moving target that you can never hit? Do you feel like you just like there's something that you can't quite grasp onto, that it's the confusion. It's the
Yes.
confusion. It's the baffling confusion that do you feel like if you could just love him enough, then, are you so focused on their childhood trauma and healing their wounds, more focused on than you are on yourself and your own happiness? Do you feel supported and loved and respected and honored and right, all of those
Right.
things, right?
Absolutely.
That to me is a way more important marker than this sort of investigative tool that we take to them constantly. Because again, they may not align with the checklist because again, the coerciveness in coercive control, the covertness of it means that it is tailored specifically to you. They know you so well. And just as you as a human can't be plotted and mapped as like, I am this type, I am this person and I match up with this this number of checklists. Like you can't, that doesn't work with you as a human being because we're humans, we're complex. So neither can they necessarily. Their abuse is tailored specifically to you. Their coercion is tailored specifically to you. So that is not going to end up on a Google checklist necessarily. And so we're constantly talking ourselves out of the fact that, like, oh, that's what this is, right? Oh, it's not emotional abuse because he doesn't tell me that I'm nothing without him. Well, first of all, who does? Who's that? You know, very few people are that overt in their abuse and manipulation of us.
I love that. I have so many thoughts on this. I mean, first of all, I'm thinking about my relationship, and absolutely, I was obsessed with from a good place and well intention of what do you have going on? What's wrong here? How can we get you support? How and I was in the couples
Yes.
therapy too.
Yep.
And for mine in particular, I've had a few significant narcissistic relationships, but we were also dealing with a sex addiction. So I was in couples therapy for that.
Right, right, right. You're in couples therapy. Like let's break that down. That you are in couples therapy for their addiction.
Yep,
That has nothing to do with you, except that it has traumatized you. So now
absolutely.
here we are, right? And then focus of the therapy shifts to his addiction, his trauma. Where did that come from, right? And away from the trauma that it has caused you.
Yeah. And
Now we're,
then your
Mhm.
support of their addiction. Like that's the kind of help I was getting. It's like, well, how can you support him?
Right, right, of course. He obviously just needs more so that he won't have to like, go out and look at porn or hire hookers, right? No, no.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, I remember some specific advice that was basically just like it was implied that you're married, so why do you have a sex addiction?
Hmm.
That's the level that a lot of people
Right.
are
Yes,
at with
that's right.
understanding what we're
No,
dealing with.
right.
And how does that leave, I mean, me feeling obviously kind of like something to use.
That's
And
right.
I mean, we can get into all the levels of that.
Yeah,
But I love your compare and contrast of obsessing about are they showing up on this checklist of narcissism or abuse or whatever is going to actually keep you more stuck because it keeps you in this mindset of I have to figure out what it is, and until I figure out what it is wrong with them, then I'm going to keep having this issue. So I just have to find more information and more information, and
that's right. That's
eventually
right.
once I find the right information, it's going to be like a puzzle piece and I'm going to be able to click it in and then we'll have a great relationship.
That's right. Then we'll be able to fix it.
Yeah. And you
Right.
won't. You're just going to you're going to dig yourself deeper and deeper and
Deeper
deeper.
and deeper and deeper, right? Because first of all, I mean, I think we're also trying to convince ourselves that it's not that, right? So
Yeah.
let's be honest, right? If we're looking at it from the perspective of, well, it doesn't quite match up, so I'm fine, right? I think it,
Yes.
it makes me think of when I quit drinking, that I would go through the checklists of, am I an alcoholic, right? And according to at the time, the alcohol use disorder wasn't even in the DSM, I think, at that point. But um, it, according to AA, right? Like, no, I didn't relate to what makes someone an alcoholic in AA. So I was like, oh, well, okay, I guess I'll just keep drinking because the checklist, right? When I shifted it from this examination of the definition of an alcoholic into how do I feel?
Mm,
How do I feel about my drinking? I do not feel good about this.
yeah.
I feel like it's causing me problems. I feel like whether my life is not unmanageable, my life was, but I didn't feel good. I was
Yeah.
depressed all the time. I was anxious all the time because it turns out that's what alcohol does to your body. But that's another story, right? But when I was focusing so much on like, do I line up? Do I identify? Does it, right? I was just lost and confused, more lost,
Yeah.
more confused. When I focused on myself, I was able to go, oh, actually, I don't feel good about this and I don't choose it anymore.
Mm. It's often a way we're trying to manage anxiety. We're looking for the
Yeah,
checklist where it's
right.
either I'm going to find the thing that's going to help us, or I'm going to see this is all just in my head. And
Yeah.
like he said, I do just need to be more loving, more giving, more patient, and it's fine.
Yeah. And, I want to also really sort of acknowledge that we don't want to end these relationships.
Right.
We are looking for all the reasons and ways that we can stay because we love them.
Hmm.
We are not looking to leave it, right? Which is why this is so hard. When my clients say, like, well, I wanted this, why is it so hard? My response is always, because you never wanted this. You
Yeah.
never wanted to have to end this. You're having to end a relationship because you don't have any other choice. and you have hit every single wall that you can possibly hit, and there is no other option at this point.
Yep, that's very true.
And that's a hard thing to, when you're looking at, do they match up? Do they check all the boxes? You don't want them to.
Yeah, partly you don't. That's exactly
Yeah,
what I was thinking is these are not relationships that are easy to disconnect from. We have an attachment to this person, whether it is a partner or even a parent or somebody else significant in your life. Like when we're talking about any
hmm,
relationship,
sure.
there is something called betrayal blindness, where we're
Mhm.
blind to the betrayals that are happening, not literally, but the way we process them. We don't see them as a betrayal. It's a misunderstanding, it's a miscommunication. It's they were stressed, they had a bad day, they had a bad childhood. So your brain knows that to see the reality of your situation is going to cause pain, and it
That's right.
might mean kind of your life imploding for a little bit until you can settle it back down. And
That's
so
right.
your brain is kind of protecting you from seeing the betrayals and the abuses and the traumas that are happening until you are in a place where you can actually sit with that and what that means.
Yeah, right.
So these it's not easy to come to terms with.
And it's not, because the design of the abuse is such that you do not feel equipped to sit with that. You have no capacity. Like, you've been stripped. Let's just say you've been stripped of your capacity to sit with something that intense because of the gaslighting, because of the just the crazy making of it all, and because of the stripping of the sense of self. So you're being asked to face something at a time when it's almost impossible for you to conceive of facing it. And
Right.
that's why we stay. That is
Right.
why it's so hard to leave.
It's not because you're naive or stupid or weak or foolish or any of those things.
Nope.
It's because your brain is kind of fighting you from seeing it on the betrayal blindness side, like it's hard to see, and your body is systematically, because of the abuser you're dealing with, in fight or flight, which
Right.
makes accessing your prefrontal cortex and the thinking and the planning and the decision making that has to happen very difficult, if not almost impossible, because who's thinking about dinner if they're having to run away from a bear? Like,
Right.
you can't make those kinds of
You can't.
decisions if you're like, I don't even know what I want for dinner. I don't even, well, of course you don't, because you're living, it's like living in a house that's on fire. All
That's
your
right.
body is saying address the threat. Don't worry about all these other decisions. So you literally can't, you're fighting your own physiology.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, well said.
Yeah. So I also want to ask you about your book. You wrote The D
Oh,
Word, Making the Ultimate Decision About Your Marriage.
yeah.
So I know that you also work with a lot of people on this question of should I stay or should I go? I mean, that is the crux. I think that's where a lot of us start when we're trying to like figure out what's happening, what we should do with it. So
Yeah.
what do you wish more women knew, like before they make that decision to stay or go, especially when a narcissist is involved?
Well, I think first of all, exactly, I think what I said before, which is like, let's turn this around and focus on self,
Yeah.
right? So the first third of my book is we're going to not examine them for a minute. We're going to actually bring you back to self. We are going to do that work to regulate your nervous system. When we've been in this type of relationship for as long as many as of us, have been or were, um, we have been so disconnected from our capital S self for so long that we don't even know who's making the decision. I don't know what I believe in. I don't know what I want for dinner because,
Right.
as you say, right, how can I figure out what I want for dinner when I'm being attacked by a bear at all, I'm
Right.
surrounded, it feels, right? So I don't even know what I want for dinner, let alone if I want to stay in my marriage. How do I make that decision when I cannot access, as you said, the prefrontal cortex, the decision-making core of my brain? So the first thing that I want for people who are struggling with this decision is to come back to self. And it's a catch 22, right? Because, well, I'm still in the relationship. So how can I come back to self when I'm like still under that threat? How do I make those decisions when I'm still under threat, right? But there are ways, there are exercises, there are therapeutic modalities, there are exercises that we can do that can start to access even like just little, it's like poking little holes in
Yep.
in the box to let some of the like these shots of light come through, right? And then being able to receive those shots of light and sit with them. You don't have to do anything with them, but just notice like, how do you feel? How does this relationship make you feel? I don't feel great. Let's work there then, right? Because we don't, right? We don't feel. We are disconnected from self so that we don't have to feel. So that's really, I think, the very first thing.
Mhm.
So that's, one thing I want people to know, right, is that if they can't make this decision, it's not because they're crazy or stupid or, just stuck. Like there are physiological reasons for all of this. Um, and then I want also the education piece. I want people to know what the signs are. There may not be checklists that are concrete, black and white, but there are certainly signs. And we have to be, and we're doing such a good job now educating people. We are all over the internets and the sound waves talking about this stuff, and people have access to so much more information. If you feel like your relationship, if you're constantly saying, "But if he loves me, he wouldn't. Why would he do this? If he loves me, what?" Well, if he was trying to control me,
Mm.
and that makes more sense. That's a big check mark on a checklist. My husband made me feel, my ex-husband, um, my current husband does not do any of these things, but my ex-husband, he was so controlling and critical, right? That I used to say to him, I just think that you wish I was a robot that you could program.
Absolutely.
But
Yep.
even if you program me, you would want to change the settings as soon as you did, because right now,
Yeah.
what we know about narcissists is that they have such low self-esteem, almost no self-esteem, so that the directive that they're giving is do A, B, and C, because then it'll make me feel better.
Yeah.
But when it doesn't, because it can't, and it's your fault, right? And now you need to be programmed, now you need to do, X, Y, and Z instead.
Yeah.
But that won't work either because it is not your broken thing to fix.
Yeah.
It's a bottomless pit of need. And if you're constantly feeling like you're being told that ABC will be the thing that will make everything better, and then you do ABC, but like that didn't work, that's another big check on the checklist. But it's not you. It's
Right.
not you.
It's not. And you I always tell people you can't fix a problem you're not causing.
Right.
That's the reason you
Right.
can't fix it is because you were never causing it.
That's right. And we have this, there's like a whole, body of work suggesting that, and women are constantly being told that we're responsible for men's healing, right? So that we are constantly like, oh, I can fix this. I can heal this, right? I'll
Yeah.
just love him enough. His mom didn't love him, but I do. I can heal that wound. No, no, honey, you can't.
No.
You can't.
Yep. And I'm so glad that you're sharing that because I think that in and of itself keeps people stuck because we feel like a bad person
That's right.
for not trying. Like, it even just accepting this isn't mine to fix can feel like, especially when you're early on in the healing, and if you struggle with boundaries and people pleasing and all those things, it can feel like you're giving up on that person, like you're saying, I don't care about you, that you feel guilty and shameful for setting that down, for just saying, actually, I can't fix that, for just acknowledging that's not
Absolutely.
yours.
That's not mine. Right. Right. And we say, you know what? Like, I think that's a great thing for you to talk to a therapist about.
Yeah.
Right. And they go into a rage.
Yeah. Because the point is to keep you where they want you. It's not
That's
to
right.
fix the problem or to solve the
It
problem.
is not
Which is
exactly.
also why couples therapy won't work. And it's so interesting that you're saying basically we have to get this person into a more regulated space before they can make that decision. Because a lot of people
Yeah.
come to you, to me, and it's usually out of an ultimate, like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with my marriage? What am I going to do with my parent? How am I going to respond to this? I just found out that they have an addiction. What am I going to do? And so they're coming to fix this problem, or, they think, okay, it's just, they're coming for whatever they think the problem is. And really, what you're working with them on is to be like, let's just set that aside help you get regulated, help your nervous system to calm so that you can even think through what you want to do. Because how can we ask somebody to make a decision if you can't even say who you are, which I've certainly struggled with? Like you lose your sense of self, like in that relationship. So
Absolutely.
you first have to reconnect to yourself to be able to make
Hmm.
a big decision like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a tall order when you're in that relationship and in that space. It is a
Yeah.
very tall order. And, we often know intuitively that growing into ourselves means danger for the relationship, right? And so we also have that like inner resistance to it because we kind of know what it means.
Yeah, very true. It's really interesting that that's where you go that or that's where you went with it because I just interviewed Don Hennessy, who's such an interesting guy. He spent the last 30 years studying male intimate abusers. And I
Mm,
asked him, like really getting into their mind, sitting in these groups with male intimate abusers, hearing them and how everything is so planned. It's so much
that's
more
right.
intentional than you would ever imagine.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
They size people up. Some of these guys said within 30 minutes, they knew you're the kind of person that I could target. You're the kind of person I could manipulate. You're the kind of person who's going to put my needs first. Like they know what they're doing. And he said the way to get back to yourself to start healing is to stop talking about him.
Right?
Stop
Absolutely.
making everything about him, what he
He
wants,
loves it. He
what he needs.
loves that. He's eating that up for, he
Yeah.
loves it.
And it's the
Right.
only way to get back to yourself is we orient our whole life sometimes around helping them or prioritizing the relationship. And again, these are beautiful qualities. These express your loyalty, your commitment, your genuineness. So we're certainly not saying diminish those qualities, but
Yeah.
it's don't give them to somebody who's just going to exploit them.
And that's again easy for us to say because it's like when you've been in this relationship for so long, your neural pathways, like you're just that's where you go,
Yep.
right? And we say like don't pay attention to them, focus on yourself. Well, when yourself is like this vacant, barren sort of,
Yeah.
empty bucket, like what does that mean?
Mm,
Right?
yep.
You need to work with someone, a therapist, a coach, somebody who really gets it to help you rewire your brain around
Yeah.
this, you
That is
know?
very true. I mean, I know it took me many years to get to this point. In a
Same.
healthy marriage now, it sounds like you are as well. Like, hopefully, we can just provide people hope that it can change, that it can grow, that it can get better. I mean, you know what
Yes.
you know because you've been through it.
Yep. Absolutely.
I know
Right.
most of what I know because of what I've been through. I'm a therapist, but I did not learn this in
You didn't
grad school.
learn this in therapy school.
No.
Exactly. Exactly. I know. I didn't learn this in coaching school. That's for sure. I learned it in the, well, in life, yes, and in my continued education, in
Mhm.
the things that I sought out afterwards, because there is so much more to learn about this always. But yeah, absolutely. They don't teach this in school.
Yeah, so
They
we get
really
it.
should.
But there is hope that it can be different.
Hmm.
And so that's like the whole goal of this podcast is not just to help people feel validated, but to also believe that, resilience can be restored. Like that is the point. So with that in mind, what is one thing that you would recommend somebody listening to this, they're resonating with it, they're like, this is me, but where do I start? So what's one thing they could do today to start restoring their resilience?
One thing, gosh, one thing. Honestly, it's so simple, but I think it's really important. Breathe. Breathe into yourself. Be present with the breath and be present with the feeling that comes when you breathe, even if it's fleeting, even if it's terrifying. We all have this inner sense of knowing. And very often, what we know is not something we want to know, right? So even if you know it today, and if you hear it, feel it, sense it in your breath, intuition, sense of self today, you don't have to do anything about it, right? But just be with that breath and that feeling.
No, I actually love that because in our breath, if we don't do regular yoga or meditation or mindfulness, we might not realize that there's actually built-in pauses in the breath. So you
Yes.
breathe in, You pause, you breathe out, you pause. And it's
Yeah.
within those pauses that you can hear your intuition. But
100%.
if you're just like hyperventilating all the time, figuratively and literally, we feel like we're doing that, then
Yep.
you can't ever hear,
That's right.
what you need to hear.
That's right.
And I know what I'm taking away is what you said of how do I feel in this relationship rather than focusing, obsessing on like, certainly there is a time and a space to learn about coercive control, to read those checklists, to do the
Absolutely.
warning signs. Like that is a part of it. But
Yep.
if you feel like you're spinning your wheels there,
Yep.
then you need to also come back to how do I feel? Because
Yeah.
I can speak for me, I'm sure you can as well. You do not feel those things in a healthy relationship.
No, no, never once. Here's the thing. People in healthy, happy, loving relationships don't think about whether they should stay or go. Even
Mhm.
that.
No, that's true.
Right? Like,
You don't think,
never.
is this abusive? You're not like, are they gaslighting me constantly? What did they mean by that? Why did they say
That's
that?
right.
You don't feel like you're walking on eggshells. You feel like you can just
Never.
have a conversation. So,
Right.
all the things that even exist in a
That's right.
relationship, in an abusive relationship, they literally don't exist in a healthy one.
They do not exist.
All
No.
right. Well, Kate Anthony, we could talk forever. Thank you so much
We
for
so
being
could.
here. Where can people find out more about you?
Everything about me is on my website, kateanthony.com. And my podcast is the Divorce Survival Guide podcast. And I'm on Instagram over at kateanthony_divorce coach. But again, all the links to everything is on my website, kateanthony.com.
Perfect. I'll put that in the show notes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chelsey. It's been great.
Thank you so much, Kate, for reminding us of the importance of slowing down, tuning in, and asking, how do I feel in this relationship? Which is really the fastest and clearest way to answer the question, should I stay or should I go? If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe to the show to help more survivors find important conversations like this. And as always, I want to remind you that no matter where you are on your healing journey, resilience can be restored, and we'll keep building it together. I'll see you in the next episode.